Welcome, dear friends, to another episode of Bhakti Today. My name is Param Shreyadas from Germany.
And my name is Chandrasekhar, or Cyril War, from France/America.
Cool. And today we want to talk about a breaking news that we just got. Tulsi Gabbard is running for presidency, U.S. President 2020. And I think that's worth talking a little bit, Chandrasekhar.
It's worth talking about, yes, indeed.
There are a few question marks. One is, as you might know, she is a practicing Hindu Vaishnava. She put her oath, is it called oath?
Yeah, she placed her hand when she made her vow, or she made an oath to the Constitution by placing her hand on the Bhagavad Gita, on Srila Prabhupada's translation and commentary to the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, so that is a statement, I think. Still, there are some question marks. There is the pro-life and pro-choice issue, and we have not figured out what her stance is on that. So stay tuned, this is our topic.
Namaste. Warm wishes and aloha from Hawaii to you all. I'm deeply honored to have been invited to join you in this glorious celebration of the appearance of the Bhagavad Gita. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All glories to Lord Krishna. When I was elected to the United States Congress, I chose to take the oath of office on the Bhagavad Gita. Many people have asked me why I made that choice, and for me, the answer is very simple. Krishna's teaching in the Gita of loving service to God and working for the well-being of all of God's children, his teachings of Bhakti and Karma Yoga, are the foundation and driving force and purpose of my life.
And that you will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which you are about to enter. So help you God.
I do.
Then, congratulations.
I had heard, or I had hoped actually, that Tulsi was going to run for president. And for the last several years, I looked up online on Google, I did some searches, Tulsi Gabbard for president, and it never really showed, the result never really showed a convincing result. But as you told me yesterday, and I checked, now it's all over the news. You know, Tulsi Gabbard is officially running for president. And so for those of us who are not aware of who is Tulsi, or those of you who are hearing this or watching this, Tulsi Gabbard is a Vaishnavi, a practicing Bhakti-yogini from the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, and she as everyone knows, she comes from Hawaii, and her parents are followers of a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, whose name, he's still alive, his name is Siddha Sarupananda, and there's a whole history behind his relationship with Prabhupada and his relationship with other members of the Hare Krishna movement, and how he split off when Prabhupada was still alive. And we may not want to get into the details of that, but suffice it to say that the chances are that a practicing Vaishnavi, a Bhakti-yogini, in the United States of America may become the next president in 2020.
Yeah, and I also think that is quite exciting. I stumbled upon a quote by the founder of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. He made this quote in 1969, April 28th, in Boston, and he said there that if only 1% of the Americans yeah, I will read it to you. It's quite interesting. He says, that is a fact, because we are presenting authorized thing. So my request is that you take advantage. You have got good opportunity. You take this advantage of opening the door of liberation, and
you're going to cut this, right?
Don't misuse your life simply for sense gratification like cats and dogs. Then the people of your country, of your society, or your family, they will be all benefited, and population, and because other nations, they are also imitating your procedures, there will be also benefited. And at least if 1% of the whole population becomes Krishna conscious, the whole world will be a different world. The world itself will become kingdom of God. Of course, we cannot expect that everyone will accept this philosophy, but we are trying. If some percentage of the population takes this movement seriously, the face of the world will be changed. What do you think about this?
Interesting. Huh? It reminds me of a passage in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says that whatever a great person does, the common folk follow, isn't it?
Yes.
What's that verse? I think it's from the chapter 3, verse 21. Yad yad achatati shreshtas tat tat evataro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokastad anuvartate. And Prabhupada translates this verse as, whatever action is performed by a great man, common men follow in his footsteps. And whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. So, of course, being a president in the United States today is different from being a king with, you know, a lot more power at one's disposal. But still, when you're the president of a democratic country like America, you still wield a tremendous amount of power and influence. And so, by having Tulsi in the White House, if she's a vegetarian, for example, or a vegan, and everyone knows about it, or if she's a practicing Hare Krishna and everyone knows about it, what to speak if she manages to implement policies that would be more and more in line with the Bhakti-yoga lifestyle, then we can only imagine the ripple effects that would have upon the population. And I think that's what Prabhupada is hinting at in his lecture there, don't you think?
Absolutely. And you said that a president of a democratic country has still a lot of influence, but yeah, we are not talking about any democratic country here. We talk about the United States of America, and this country is still the leading country in the world.
Right.
So it is not like, you know, the president of the prime minister of Sweden or Slovenia, or, you know, this kind of countries.
Mozambique.
I don't know. Is this a democratic country? I have my doubts.
Oh, I don't even know if it's what to speak. Yeah, I don't even know. But nothing against people from Mozambique, by the way. Just a comment.
Okay. Yeah. So
there's a lot of. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry. So it's exactly what you said about this verse from Bhagavad Gita. It is not only yat yat acharati shreshtas regarding to human beings. It also refers to countries. There are countries who, I don't know, who can we say who? That set.
Yeah, or that.
Yeah, that set an example for the whole world.
Yeah, better or for worse, most of the world today is following the West, right? For better or for worse. There's obviously a lot of bad things and a lot of good things too. And so whatever the Western countries do, the rest of the world follows in a lot of cases, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think that's European or Western chauvinism right here. I think it's geopolitics of today. It may change in 20 years, in 50 years, in 100 years, and that's fine. And if people want that to happen, you know, great. But I think if we observe the geopolitics of today, of 2020 on planet Earth, I don't think many people would argue against this argument.
Yeah. Because it's not that we find it good that America is the leading country. It is just the matter of fact. It is the leading country. Whether we find it good or bad, this is the situation.
Yeah.
And we also you talked about, excuse me, you talked about geopolitics. There is also, soft power. We have this hard power like military and these aeroplane carriers. I think America has 9 of these carriers, so a very military, very powerful country. But we also have soft power. That means many countries try to imitate the cultural aspects of America, and we shouldn't underestimate this kind of power.
And I hope we can talk about that a little bit in relationship to Tulsi Gabbard's presentation and how she dresses, for example, and how she manages to have such a high position, and whether or not that's a coincidence or not. I'd like to touch that in a little bit later. But you know what I'd like to do, Param? I want to read to you 3 verses, because after all, Bhakti Today is based on the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Vaishnava tradition and the rich Vedic literatures. And just this morning, I was listening to a live lecture that was being given in Mayapur, West Bengal, by a friend called Vaikuntha Nitai, who's from Serbia, and he happened to be giving that lecture, and I woke up a little early and logged on, and he happened to be giving it, and I listened to it, and it really perked my attention, because the verse on which he was lecturing was one of the verses in the 9th canto of the Bhagavatam, wherein the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra are described, and that verse in particular described what the atmosphere was in the kingdom of Ramachandra, at least according to the testimony of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And so would it be okay if I just read these few verses,
please,
that describe the condition when God himself, when not even an avatar, when God himself, or the supreme person himself in his form of Ramachandra comes and becomes the monarch of the earth. This is what happens as a result. So 9th canto of chapter 10, verse 50, Lord Ramachandra accepted the throne of the state. He cared for the citizens exactly like a father, and the citizens, being fully engaged in their occupational duties of Varna and Ashram, accepted him as their father. The next verse, Lord Ramachandra became king during Treta-Yuga, which has to do with cosmology, past ages, a long time ago. But because of his good government, the age was like Satya-Yuga. In other words, the age was like the golden age. Everyone was religious and completely happy. And there's 2 more verses. During the reign of Lord Ramachandra, the forests, the rivers, the hills and mountains, the states, the 7 islands, and the 7 seas were all favorable in supplying the necessities of life for all living beings. And finally, this is the verse that Vaikuntha Nitai spoke on this morning. When Lord Ramachandra, the Supreme Person, was the king of this world, all bodily and mental suffering, disease, old age, bereavement, lamentation, distress, fear, and fatigue were completely absent. There was even no death for those who did not want it. And in the purport to that last verse, Prabhupada mentions that if we just chant Hare Krishna, we can have this atmosphere called the Ram Raja, or the kingdom of Ram, even today.
Yeah,
You
very, very interesting. Yeah. So this is from Srimad Bhagavatam.
That's from Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th canto. So Tulsi Gabbard, she's not Lord Ramachandra, but she's a Vaishnavi. she's a devotee of Krishna, and so we can have faith that, you know, in small proportions, in reflected portions, minimal reflected portions, this type of auspiciousness and spiritual munificence would become manifest to some degree in the United States and in the world as a ripple effect if she became president, right?
Yeah. So you think that if she becomes president, that, let's say, within 72 hours everything will change? What will?
Yeah, people won't even they won't die if they don't want to.
Yeah, what will change? What can change, and what can we not expect that will change immediately?
You see, I'm not much of a politics buff. I don't know so many details of U.S. or French governance, and therefore, I don't. Yeah, it's a question that someone who has a degree in political science and who, you know, specializes in U.S. politics would be able to answer. In other words, how much and how little can the President of the United States do in terms of changing or establishing or getting rid of certain policies? You know, we would ideally wish for the slaughterhouses to close down, right?
Yeah, for instance.
We would want, you know, certainly some... and I think maybe this is maybe a segue on the issue of abortion, you know, and you brought it up at the very beginning.
Maybe
you know,
a couple of sentences about slaughterhouses. Why, for those listeners who are new to this whole program here, why are we, the Krishna Vaishnavas, against slaughterhouses? Or at least slaughterhouses of cows, or what it is called? Cows and bulls, especially.
Right.
Maybe you can explain in a few words.
I think you could do a better job with that. I want to hear from you.
Okay. And maybe when I forget something, you can add something.
Sure.
Yeah. We, the Krishna followers, we try to follow a life where we deliver as less pain as possible to other creatures, living creatures, sentient beings, not only the human beings but also other sentient beings, because we know that pain is nothing nice to experience. I think all of our listeners will agree. And we also see a connection that there was once one author, famous author from Russia called Leo Tolstoy, and he
the Tolstoy quote, that's a great one.
Yeah, and he said that as long there will be slaughterhouses, there will be wars or battlefields.
There'll be battlefields.
Yeah. So in other words, we believe that there is a karmic connection between how we treat animals daily and also how, out for no reasons often, aggressions between people and even between countries, nations suddenly develop and
take place.
Yeah.
Right.
So therefore, we believe that this world can change significantly for the good when people recognize or acknowledge this karmic connection between our treatment of animals and how we as human beings treat each other.
If I can add, I think that position, that policy, that view, that worldview is anchored in a belief, in a theological belief, again, coming right from the Bhagavad Gita, wherein among other verses, Krishna says, Vidya Vinay Sampanne. You know that 5th chapter, verse, I think 18, that famous equal vision verse, wherein, and you know, it's funny when not funny, but it's interesting when I meet people here in Montpellier, young students, and I give them free copies of Prabhupada's books, the Ishopanishad, or small commentaries on the Bhagavad Gita. When I introduce myself, I tell them, you know, I practice Bhakti-yoga, and then one of the things I say every time is that I'm a vegan or I'm a vegetarian, because I believe that animals are conscious spiritual beings just like we are, and they just happen to have a different body than we do right now in their, you know, reincarnation evolution. But in the eyes of God, ontologically speaking, they have the exact same amount of value and are as much an object of love and affection than we are. And always people just like, they nod, and it's like, it really sinks in. I could see people just are just like, you know, they may not like say, okay, great, where do I sign up to become a Hare Krishna now? But that argument, that view is, I think, very attractive because it's rational and it makes sense. It's deep, you know? And so if Tulsi, who's obviously vegetarian, a Krishnatarian, she offers her vegetarian food to God before eating it, that's like maybe an extra step we can talk about, because anyway, that's a detail about, you know, the karma that you get from even killing plants. How do you get rid of that? Because you have to eat something anyway. But again, Yad Yad Ashtarati Sheshtas, if she's in power and everyone knows that she's a vegetarian or a vegan, and even if some people know that she offers her food in loving sacrifice to God before eating it, that would be fantastic. That would really have a great effect. And so therefore, obviously, we would want the slaughterhouses to be closed, because as you say, we don't want to perpetuate this karmic weight that's being accumulated and that reacts sooner or later.
Right. Yeah, so I think here Tulsi Gabbard has a very clear stance. I strolled a little bit through some YouTube videos where she gave interviews, and there was one was quite impressive, where she was invited to a Muslim conference about peace after some you know, terrorist attacks happened, and she gave a very beautiful, clear speech. She even quoted Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So
Bhaktivinoda Thakur is a prominent teacher, or eminent scholar, teacher, guide, guru in the Krishna tradition.
Right.
Late 19th, early 20th century.
Yeah. And so also she took a very strong position regarding these North Dakota oil pipeline. Was it north or south? I think north.
North Dakota, I think.
North Dakota. And she also explained how nature is part, or is an energy of God, and we should treat Mother Earth like a sentient being. And
wow, she really said that, huh? That nature is an energy of God, huh?
As far as I remember, there are some interviews.
Again, that's straight out of the Bhagavad Gita.
Yes. So that really I found really cool. And
among the Vaishnav community, she gets, I think I see where you're going now, right? In the Vaishnav community, I think for good reasons, she's a bit criticized, or eyebrows are raised as to why she has at least an official policy of being pro-choice, when I would say unanimous, 99.9% of devotees of Krishna, at least on principle, maybe when it gets to legislation, it gets more complicated. And I think maybe that's where the crux of the issue lies. But on principle, devotees of Krishna who believe in the Bhagavad Gita, who believe in Krishna's teachings, are obviously against abortion. And so, we have a friend, for example, on Facebook, right? What's his name? Giuseppe
Gracchiorani. Oh, excuse me if I have...
Giuseppe Quinciori. from Italian descent. He's an Orthodox priest as well as a Vaishnava, right? And that his name, he's an American Orthodox priest, right? From the Orthodox, I think Greek or Russian Orthodox Church, and but he's also a practicing Bhakti yogi, a practicing Vaishnava, and so there was a discussion about this a few months ago or maybe a year ago, and he was quite vocal. You know, he was saying, and if you're watching this, I'm just repeating what you told us in public. You know, the argument that, you know, obviously a devotee of Krishna is pro-life, and therefore, as soon as you compromise theologically with one of the core precepts of your tradition, then you've compromised, and you're no longer really representing purely what the sacred scriptures, which we believe were, you know, enunciated or revealed by God, teach. And so, so that's why many devotees ask, you know, why is she pro-choice and not pro-life? What's your take on this?
Yes, I have searched through the internet yesterday to find some, you know, substantial arguments, but I got the feeling that Tulsi is rather, what is the word, bypassing this issue. Bypassing.
Sidestepping.
She talks about many things. Veterans.
Avoiding.
Sidestepping.
Right?
She's avoiding to confront herself too much with this issue. That was my impression. Maybe I am wrong, or if you, dear listeners or audience, can show me some references, some videos or articles, I would be very interested. But so that was my impression.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
To what degree, starting with this idea of, you know, this statement, this expression, in like a needle, out like a plow.
Yeah, that is one of...
How far...
Please.
Yeah, how far does a devotee of Krishna take that until he or she has voided his or her guarantee, so to speak, as a bona fide representative of the tradition? Like, because we could say that, you know, Tulsi is obviously pro-life, but knowing the general political situation of America, there's no way you can become president of America, at least today, if you're pro-life. And so therefore, to increase the chances of getting into office in like a needle, and once being in office having a lot more effect, out like a plow, let's just pretend, or let's just, you know, say that you follow the party line and you toe the party line and you are pro-choice. I don't know, I have a little bit of a problem with that. I mean, I agree on principle, but where do you draw the line? And
that's really...
What's your thought?
Yeah, that's really a good question. Of course, even in the pro-choice camp, there are various shades, one should fairly say. You have politicians, who are, you know, very liberal. You can abort a baby, a fetus, one day before taking birth, which I think is very graphic. And then there are people out there, they think, let's not do it after 2 weeks or so. Of course, from our position as followers of the Bhagavad Gita, we know that a living entity is taking life at the time of perception. We have a conception. Yeah. So at this moment we have practically a human being which is not at that time fully manifested, but all the potency is already there. It is just a matter of time, and then this human being will be fully manifested. So our position is that at the time of conception, we cannot take any pills after that or any surgery that would be drastically against the principles of the Bhagavad Gita. and the Srimad Bhagavatam, where also very vividly it is explained how a human being is existing in the mother, in the womb of the mother. But still we cannot put all these pro-choice stances in one common pot. Still there might be some different arguments we have to consider to some degree. Of course, as you said, there is a red line where we really have to say, no, here we have to make a full stop. So yeah, as I said, I couldn't find her arguments on this issue. So if I have a chance, I would be very interested in asking her what she exactly has to say on that.
Overall, it's a great thing, though, isn't it? I mean, if a devotee of Krishna... I was just thinking, in America, there's a huge Indian population that amounts to, I think, 1 to 3% of the U.S. population. And there's already a few Indian, American-born Indians. What are they called? ABCDs, American-born confused deshis. Born in America, from Indian descent, from Hindu Indian descent. And imagine if, like, the first Indian U.S. president came from a family that followed, Advaita Vedanta, Shankaracharya, what we call Mayavad philosophy, impersonalism. That would be really a bummer, because then everybody would start thinking, oh yeah, well, yeah, right? Hinduism means there's many gods, and all the gods represent one impersonal reality, and Krishna is just, or Vishnu or Ganesh, or it's all the same. And so I really pray that.
And you are God, and I am God.
Yeah, I'm God, you're God. It'd be a bummer that that among all the contenders, so to speak, within the broad category of Hinduism, and we do use that word right carefully with caution, because it's a word that none of the Vedic scriptures mention. It's a word that was invented by the I think the Afghans or the Mughals when they invaded India. It would be kind of sad that among all the contenders, the Vaishnavas being one of them, that impersonalism would come out as the champion, because I would much rather have a Christian president than a Mayavadi, quite frankly. I'd much rather have even a fanatic, not fanatic, but a somewhat sectarian Christian who at least has a notion of monotheism, than someone who believes that that there's no distinction between the soul and God. Now, can we talk about culture? Because I think we have a few minutes left. One thing that and people who hear me speak about different topics hear me talk about this topic often, and it has to do with the project of spreading, right, Gaudiya Vaishnavism in a totally different cultural context, namely the West. And one of the elements of culture is clothes. And as I mentioned on my Facebook profile the other day, I don't think it's an accident that Tulsi, coming from a group, and again, we're going to spare you guys the details, but the fact is that the group or the branch of Krishna consciousness that Tulsi belongs to is a branch that from the very beginning, from the last 40, 50 years, has a policy of practicing and preaching Krishna consciousness in normal Western clothes. Except maybe if you're a monk, and that's a tiny small percentage, and even then I'm sure it's very flexible. And if you compare that to ISKCON, our beloved institution that we function in, we criticize and critique, but we still, what is it? The queen with all thy faults, we still love thee. So, but the policy, for better or for worse, and I definitely would say for worse, in ISKCON is that the ideal way to dress is still considered to be, especially for someone who has a managerial or ecclesiastical position, that of a shaved head, even if you're married and you have children, shaved head with a little tuft of hair in the back, and the white kurta, that Muslim, shirt with 3 buttons, and the famous dhoti, the robe. And I don't see any leader in ISKCON from the householder community as much as I love practically all of them and I admire them greatly, I don't see any of them, women or man, having nearly the same amount of political and just influence in general that Tulsi Gabbard does. And one might say, well, it's just an accident. I would say maybe it's an accident, but I think a huge factor in this equation is, again, is the clothes issue. And I think that, you know, as long as Hare Krishnas believe that, you know, they're going to conquer mainstream American or Western European culture from the inside and, you know, become politicians as Tulsi has done, with, you know, a shaved head and a tuft of hair, being a married man or a woman, or a sari and, you know, a white dhoti, I think is very unrealistic.
Yeah, I think also. And I think she sets a nice example that even as a Western woman, you can dress very decently, very sattvic. I think she has this this feeling, the tact feeling of how to dress in a proper way.
She's very smart. She's an American woman who dresses, you know, like an American woman, and maybe she'll wear a sari. But again, the issue of saris and dhotis is, I think it's even more problematic for men than it is for women.
Yeah, it can be.
In other words, wearing a sari in America is okay. Shaving your head with a little ponytail in the back and wearing a white robe and a white Muslim shirt as a married man, a man of society, is way more shocking, even more difficult for the mainstream to swallow. So anyway, I don't want to, you know, speak about this extensively, but I thought of bringing this point in our podcast.
Sure. Yeah, interesting point. Yes, folks, I think we have a good conclusion here, that we have to wait a little bit what will happen the next months, and I'm sure that when Tulsi Gabbard in the next month, I don't know how long it will take, this election. When is the next election from now?
2020.
2020. So I'm quite sure that, for instance, the issue of pro-choice and pro-life will be, she cannot step aside this forever. She will have to make a stance, or a more clearer stance with some arguments. And as I said, if you already have some information, I would be very interested to get it. You can write it down into the comment section here. So, but all in all, I think we agree that there is a huge chance for just, even if she doesn't make it, it will create a lot of awareness for the Krishna consciousness movement. And hopefully the devotees will also act wisely and take this opportunity in a wise way. Just make people aware of universal principles, not, you know, dogmatic, cultural, traditional principles, but also, you know, we have a treasure house of universal spiritual principles we can deliver to the world in this phase of election. Yeah.
Great. Well, we thank you for being with us. We love to share these insights and references and quotes and ask questions on this Bhakti Today podcast. I think the next podcast's topic is the importance of what we call sadhana, of spiritual practice. And we look forward to speaking on that topic in our next podcast.
Yes, thank you. Don't forget to subscribe. And
yeah, please do subscribe.
Yes, and have a nice spiritual day.
And may Tulsi Gabbard become president.
Hi everybody. Hi everyone to a new episode of Bhakti Today. My name is Param Shreyadas from Germany.
Wait, you said, I'm sorry to interrupt you. It's like hi everyone. It's welcome, not hi. Like welcome to, not hi to. Sorry.
Okay. Welcome everyone to a new episode of Bhakti Today. My name is Param Shreyadas from Germany and my pleasure is to talk.
My name is
Okay, another try. Welcome everyone to a new episode of Bhakti Today.
Cool.
Seriously?
Yeah, it's good.
So, take 108. Welcome everyone to a new episode of
Hi.
Bhakti Today. And my name is Param Shreyadas. Your name?
I thought you were going to say from Germany, man.
Okay, good. Take 109.